You are listening to TechVibe Radio. It's coming at you from the Huntington Bank studios. TechVibe Radio is your front row seat to Pittsburgh's fast-moving technology ecosystem. TechVibe is brought to you by the generous support of Blink at 321blink.com, Chorus Call at choruscall.com, C-Leveled at c-leveled.com, Compunetics at compunetics.com, Huntington Bank at huntington.com, My Benefit Advisor at ptc.mybenefitadvisor.com, and PNC Bank at pnc.com. Here are your hosts, the Pittsburgh Technology Council's Audrey Russo and Jonathan Kirsting. Good morning, everybody, and happy Sunday. So glad you got up early and joined both Audrey Russo and myself, Jonathan Kirsting, to be part of TechVibe Radio this morning. So much fun bringing you the best stories happening in Pittsburgh's tech ecosystem. And today's story, I think, is pretty amazing because we're talking to fivestar. They've been around since 1997, so they're celebrating 25 years in Pittsburgh's technology sector. And we're talking to Lou Camerlengo today, one of the founders. If you don't know fivestar, go to fivestardev.com and you can check them out. And fivestar, I mean, they are just the partner to have when it comes to things like custom web applications and software solutions all around accelerating your business. You come to them with your issues and they have a custom solution for it. Nothing comes canned or out of a box there, that's for sure. I am super pumped to learn more about 25 years growing in Pittsburgh, because as we kind of move forward on this, I realized I've been around here for 25 years covering Pittsburgh's tech sector. So to me, this is going to be extra special.
So Lou, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah,
good morning. Thanks for having me.
What a great milestone. So do you remember what was going on, what you were thinking about when you wanted to start this company?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, when Jonathan and I were talking back and forth, I think we decided to call this TechVibe Silver Edition. So, both reflective of our time and our hair and my beard. So but thanks again for having me. But I mean, it's interesting because I've talked about this at other times too. When Dave Clazy and I started fivestar with our first and still employee Corey Seaman, who's been with us the whole time.
Nice.
We also we talked about the concept of built to evolve. So we always knew that the company would change over how long of time we did it. So even when we started, we weren't really a technology company. We started working with corporations doing interactive training programs, which is what Dave and I did in the company that we worked for previously, which is where I met him. So, but very quickly into the history of the company, we had clients who started asking us for if we would support technology development. So that was really one of the kind of the first evolutions that we've made. I think we did have kind of a vision and a plan. I mean, I think we were thinking about a 5 to 7 year plan. So that, we've definitely stuck on it a little bit longer than that. But, I mean, we've always, again, tried to look at the company as kind of a living organism and adapting as, conditions warrant, as clients, ask us to do things. So we've tried to keep things pretty open. So even though we've been at it for 25 years, it almost feels like it's 3 or 4 different companies at this point.
So where are you guys like getting the most traction now? Like if you're described to us like what fivestar is all about today, what's your main thing?
Yeah, it's interesting. And I'll talk about it in a couple of different ways. Okay. So I think a big kind of shift for us is most of the projects that we are working on now are a little bit larger scale, and they are either actual products for our clients or they're internal projects, but they're really managed on more of a product development lifecycle. So, we have projects that we're working on now that many of them we've been working on for 2 or 3 years because there's multiple kind of generations and iterations of it. So it's been interesting because it's enabled us even to put like dedicated project teams, because even if it's not an actual product that our client is continuing to do releases for, they are looking at that way internally with annualized budgets. And we work very closely with them to determine what those iterations are. So there's a lot more kind of consulting work, I think, is part of what we're doing. And more of it, we've always had a pretty diverse client list, but we are seeing more and more of it focused on the areas of education, workforce development. And I don't know if that's based on the fact that our foundation was in education and training, but we're working with organizations on career development, career exploration, learning management systems. We're working with an educational publishing company, helping them distribute classroom materials in a digital manner, because prior to the pandemic, everything was pretty much distributed electronic hard copy. So there's definitely a concentration in that area. And I do think it's something that we're starting to become more known for. I mean, even nationally, I think we've developed a pretty good network, particularly in that workforce development space. So, on occasion, people will reach out to us for opportunities, but we have a pretty big network. And it's interesting. And, it's also very gratifying. I mean, all the work we've done, there's always a level of impact, but when you're really kind of impacting people on that individual level, particularly in helping someone upskill and increase, income from lower wage to more mid and sustaining wage. So, we're definitely seeing that as more of a focus, but I wouldn't say that it's exclusive at this point, because again, we're always interested in different types of things. So, if a project comes up that doesn't fit specifically within that space, we're very interested in supporting whatever we can, but there's definitely a concentration there.
From watching you over the years, I've seen you become really active as a civic leader as well. And I think that's probably positively affected your organization, because very often you're like in the finals if you don't win, like best place to work, in terms of not necessarily cash giving, but really active kind of engagement. When I think of your company, I think of that. So is that something that was embraced like early on, 25 years, or did you say, what, that sort of evolved and you saw that became sort of a part of the ethos of the company? And
and I appreciate that. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you. Definitely appreciate you saying that. I think Dave and I have always felt that it's important to contribute. And I think we each did that kind of individually before we started the company, but very early in the company. And it was like we were on the Inc. 500 twice, one relatively early on. And I distinctly remember that Dave and I were at that event. We're at that place like in Washington that overlooks the water. And we just started thinking about the fact that, having a more formalized, active role in the community is something that was important to us, and we knew would be important to the people that we interact with and work for us. So that's when we kind of started that concept of 5-Star Cares. And you're right, it's definitely more activity based than it is kind of financially based. Like, it's not like a foundation, but there is some aspect of that, is that I think there is something important about being present in that type of situation. I'm certainly not against, money and people giving money away, but I think we felt that even just, being more involved, there was a little bit more kind of meaning towards it. So it has been, part of the fabric of the company. And you would be surprised about how many people, when we're recruiting, mention that, and the things like best place to work, which we did. We were lucky enough to be awarded this year as well, or 2021 anyway, so that for the 5th time locally and 3 times at the state level. And those are the 2 things that people talk about, is, I think they like to see the fact that we have a active presence in the community, and that there's a focus on, best place to work, which is it's always one of the goals. I mean, even last year, it was one of our stated goals. So we just think it's important, and there's a lot of need out there, and there's always going to be a lot of need. So we just feel it's important to be able to contribute however we can.
So could we leverage one little glimpse of sort of advice from you when you think of someone who's been in the learning space, working with companies, been an entrepreneur, and this whole thing about this great reset or great resignation. Could you give some reactions on that or any kind of guidance? Because you've been in learning management. You've seen, what people work on in terms of creating opportunities inside cultures. What do you think? You think we're at an inflection point, or do you just think it's, it's hype and it's just a matter of, humans evolving?
No, I mean, I definitely think that we are at an inflection point in a number of different ways. And, one of the, well, I'll talk a little bit about that. Like even today, I was reading something that like there's starting to be an exodus of people from manufacturing going into more white collar jobs. Yes. Because they are feeling left out of the flexibility of work from home, and they're looking for different opportunities. And there are a lot of opportunities. A lot of those opportunities are in technology. So I do think that this is definitely an inflection point because it has fundamentally changed, maybe not how people work as much as where people work. We always had kind of work from home and all of those things, so it wasn't huge. But even in kind of our own company, I would not anticipate at any point there being a situation where everybody was back in the office. I mean, at any consistent level. And I don't even know if people would be interested in doing that. So I do think we're at an inflection point. And I think the thing that we're, continuing to look at is really what does culture mean? Because I do believe that, all humility aside, I think we've always been at 5-star ahead of the game in culture. I mean, we were doing cultural assessments, over 20 years ago. I mean, it was always, I think, something that we focused on. I mean, we always had, a really nice office. It was comfortable. We gave people flexibility. Maintaining that is difficult kind of in this environment because you can interact with people, you can try and get people together, but that whole kind of collective of physically being together is definitely something that is a little bit of a trade-off. Like even today I was talking to one of our folks and like that's what she was talking about, like they do miss that. She said, before the pandemic I would tell my friends that I was doing a 5-star thing today and we're doing this, that, and the other thing. They were like, well, what do you mean? Like, it's like a work thing. And it's like, no, it's like, it's fun and we like to do it. So, I think what's important is how do you capture that when in reality, changing jobs is somebody sending you a new laptop now. I mean, in a lot of ways, I mean, the physical
Exactly.
commitment is pretty low. So I do think it's an inflection point. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it makes it way more challenging, for people, particularly in recruiting and things. So, we're just always looking at ways to be able to maintain connections with people and continue to build that sense of culture. But I mean, I don't think there's no kind of going back for most organizations, at least in my opinion, or from my standpoint anyway.
Got to remind our listeners, we're talking to Lou Camerlengo from 5-Star Development. And I tell you what, 25 years in business is amazing in an industry like this that moves as fast as it has. And to me, it seems like your success has been because you continually evolve, which means you're having a ton of fun. What has surprised you the most over these past 25 years?
Yeah, what I always say is it never ceases to amaze me that I never cease to be amazed. So, I don't think it's so much as a surprise as it is. I think it's just a reinforcement of, and people say this all the time, but it's true. It's how much of it is all related to relationships and managing relationships, clients, partners, employees. I mean, our kind of philosophy has been there. We look at them kind of all the same. And, when I look at, everything that has kind of happened over the past 25 years, I think what surprises me is how much relationships really do make the difference, both in kind of the good times, and the bad times. I think, the other thing too is when you really think about, 25 years ago. And I think I've said this before. I mean, one of the first people we met were from the Tech Council. I mean,
Awesome.
Steve Higgins, maybe.
Steve Higgins, Higgs,
yeah,
we used to call him back in the day. Absolutely.
Steve and I had lunch with him even before we started the company. When we started 25 years ago, I mean, Pittsburgh was actually pretty much behind the curve in terms of technology, right? It was a lot of mainframe, not much client server. And when you look at how, when you look at how that has changed in 25 years, and now Pittsburgh is ahead of the curve in so many areas. I mean, from a regional aspect, that's definitely, I think, something that is pretty amazing and pretty surprising when you really think of that transformation over the past couple of decades.
So what's next?
We are, again, continuing to kind of grow and evolve the company. We're hoping to launch a product this year. We have an idea and we've done kind of a little bit of work on it. We were hoping to do it last year, but that is one of the challenges of trying to do that when you're running the business as well. So that's definitely something that we're really hoping to do. We have some kind of frameworks for that in place. That would probably be really the biggest thing for us, at least over the next, 12 to 18 months or so.
Excellent. So how about any advice for someone out there that's maybe in the position you were 25 years ago? You're working for somebody and you decided, I'm going to do this myself. How do you get more people to take that risk and start something cool like fivestar?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I don't know if I would have people take advice from me. I'll
take advice from you, Lou. Come on.
Well, I think what I would say, and I have a tendency to be a little bit more pragmatic, is, I would definitely follow your passions, but I would do that with a very specific plan.
Definitely, right.
And I really do. We started fivestar with a pretty specific plan, and we followed that plan for about 4 or 5 years, and then everything kind of went out the window to a degree. So, I would definitely encourage people to do this, with a plan in place, understanding that, there's definitely, a lot of risk. You're probably going to wind up working a lot harder than you're going to think you're going to be doing that, for a really long time. I think you want to understand what those success measures are, and they're different for people. You're trying to grow something that is ultimately going to have a huge amount of value, or do you want something that's more of a lifestyle that, provides you a good income and, you're happy with that and it's manageable.
And so what was different in 1999 in Pittsburgh?
Oh boy. Well, if you're talking about entrepreneurially, I would say, the ecosystem was really tiny, right? I mean, there was the Text Council, there were, there was the Enterprise Forum, there were, a couple of incubators. I mean, it was a very small tent if you were in the space. And I do think it's a much, much bigger tent now, which is great. I mean, there's lots of opportunity, for different types of companies, different types of entrepreneurs in order to be successful. So if I look at it from that aspect, I think that's probably the biggest change. How would you answer that? I'm curious.
I really think about what has changed the most in the past 25 years here in Pittsburgh's tech sector. Oh my goodness. It has to be the fact that technology and technology entrepreneurs are just accepted as being part of the norm, which I think is so cool. I mean, 25 years ago, it was like a special story if you were founding a tech company. Now it's just something that we do here in Pittsburgh. That's the biggest thing to me. And I think we're seeing a group of individuals such as yourself that have been there, done that, and the people can see you as being someone that has done that, and they know that it's a very viable route and it's the way they want to live. So I think it's exciting stuff, Lou. I'm so excited you got to hang out with us today on TechVibe Radio to tell us a little bit of your 25-year story. It's such an honor to talk to you and really just to congratulate you and your team for making it happen. It's companies like yours that's really making Pittsburgh just the cool city that it is today.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And again, really appreciate the opportunity. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
So Audrey, it goes by way too quick.
Yeah, there's lots of questions. So people should go and reach out. You can find Lou Camerlengo anywhere. You can find him involved in things that making sure that people who are disconnected, women, any kind of goodness that, Lou seems to have his finger in it in terms of personally being a great evangelical leader as well as a practitioner. Thank you.
Good stuff all the way around. Just remind everybody, this is Jonathan Kirsting.
And this is Audrey Russo.
And we are from the Pittsburgh Technology Council, bringing you TechVibe Radio every single Sunday morning. If you want more TechVibe and the thousands of interviews we have with folks just like Lou, go to pghtech.org. Have an awesome weekend, everybody. Indirect technology spend is at an all-time high and continues to grow on the balance sheet year after year. This March 29th through the 31st, PASS, the global leader in technology spend analytics, will host the Accelerating Technology Procurement Summit at Heinz Field to discuss best practices and strategies in procurement of the category. The summit will cover topics like negotiation, relevant data, sourcing, and will feature executive-level keynote speakers from Google, Oracle, KPMG, and many more. So sign up today at www.atp-summit.com/register and use code TechVibe for $500 off each registration ticket.
For more than a decade, Blink has been producing unique creative services and solutions that tell a story, move hearts, and drive decision-making that advances business objectives, your business objectives. We adopt a company-wide policy of candor, transparency, and a good old-fashioned work ethic in the pursuit of building long-lasting relationships with our clients and our partners. From video and design to strategy and digital marketing, Blink is here to creatively advance your business. Visit us at 321blink.com.
TechVibe Radio is coming at you from the Huntington Bank studios and is made possible by the generous support of our sponsors, Link, Chorus Call, C-Leveled, Compunetics, Huntington Bank, My Benefit Advisor, and PNC Bank.